Today I'm delighted to be joined by Jake Gallen, who goes by Rawgenerate on socials. And Jake is a detoxification specialist. He helps people regenerate tissue, reverse chronic illnesses. He's also certified lymphatic iridologist. And all of this training is under Dr. Robert Morse, who I've also interviewed on the channel. For any of you who don't know, Dr. Robert Morse, he's a highly censored doctor, but also very renowned in the holistic health world. So if you're kind of in that camp, you may know who he is. But Jake is also helps people with the accountability side of things, which is a huge thing, especially when you're reversing chronic diseases. And Jake's had an amazing story himself. I dived into it a little bit, Jake, and at one point it sounded like you were lucky to even make it through childhood, which is crazy to me. Now you're helping others. So before we dive into what I hope can help a lot of people with, reversing chronic issues, dealing with a lot of myths like the protein myth, fruit, things like that, a lot of myths that we hear circulating, and empowering people, I'd like to actually dive into your story a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind, can you just share, I guess, maybe from the beginning, just a real quick bird's eye view of where your journey started and how it led you to where you're at now?
Yeah, well, thanks, Dylan. Yeah, that was an awesome introduction, and you're absolutely right. Dr. Morse is a heavily censored doctor in this day and age, and the fact that he has everything on his websites and he's in full ownership of what he does is imperative. It's just like your health in this day and age. You're the only person that can be in true control of that, and that does stem back to from childhood. There's a lot of unknown at that time when it came to the appendix, what the appendix did and does. It's now pretty widely accepted to be a lymph node to the small bowels. Before, when I was a child in the 90s, when I was born in the 90s, sorry, it was just an extra gland, an extra organ, didn't really know what it did. Just something that nature put there for some dumb reason and just thought, you don't need it. And this appendix literally ruptured, it popped. In this day and age, if you have pain in the appendix area, they'll remove it before it blows up. Because a popped appendix the chances of surviving that is actually quite remarkable. There's someone actually that commented actually on this post, and she said, "Oh, that's very common," and she was confused about an appendix rupturing versus just being removed from being weak. And what essentially happened is when I was 15 months old, not 15 years, 15 months of age, just over a year, that it burst, and my entire colon area got literally soaked and covered in waste debris, which should have killed me alone. They actually found high levels of chromium, copper, lead in my hair analysis. There was a laboratory from the United States, called Smokey's Laboratory. They sent a specialist out at one point from the United States to New Zealand, where I was born, because they were just thinking that how is this child even alive? How do you have those levels of heavy metals in your system? How do you survive a ruptured appendix? But actually, prior to this, I was in a coma for 8 days, 7 or 8 days. About a week after I was born, they weren't too sure why that happened. But now, someone who's nearly 30, in my childhood, I always had teeth issues, and people may not really understand how does a tooth problem relate to an appendix rupturing. There's this whole thing of, well, they're not connected. Yeah, they may not be literally, but when we understand the systemic state of the human being on a lymphatic level, hence lymphatic iridology, which we can touch on later, is that state, that system in my body, thanks to iridology, showed me how advanced it was. And I will literally quote Dr. Morse verbatim when he did my case on a live Q&A. It's on his website. I can actually have it linked in the video if people want to check it out. He's verbatim, he said, "Jake, close your ears, kids. Your lymphatic system is a shithouse mess." That was his phrase. And I'm glad for his frankness because it's no joke. When you're 21, 22 and you're having a tooth pulled out, and then the dentist scans your mouth and says that every tooth has some sort of internal decay, and yet the outside of my teeth were cavity-free, plaque-free, and they couldn't explain that. And they said, "Oh, it's your sugar diet, your vegan diet." I wasn't on a fruit diet at that point. But what really was apparent was this lymphatic issue had been consistent all throughout my life. And I remember seeing a picture of when I was a child and how green and yellow my eyes looked. They were very blue when I was born. And as we know now from iridology and Dr. Morse's school, often your true eye color is shown initially, and then the lymphatic system becomes clear over the iris. And so I was called Blue Bell or Bluey or Jacob Blue as a baby. But then as the years proceeded in my life as a child, they were like more green blue, greeny yellow blue. That's the lymphatic system. And now understanding that and seeing that as an adult, in my early 20s, I understood, okay, I've got some serious work to do here. There's a lot of lymphatic issues here because this internal decay is not something I should be experiencing. Other than that, people would say, you look great, you have a lot of energy. I was a very energetic kid. I was also very violent as a child, a lot of anger and aggression. And then I turned to a vegan diet when I was 18, a bit over 10 years ago, and that was pretty much the make or break for me. I was like, oh, well, this is life, vegan diet's where it's at. Not understanding complex carbohydrates, heavily cooked foods, processed vegan things, and I developed not only the teeth issues, which took a few years to really kick back in again because they were my adult teeth. My childhood teeth were pretty bad, and then because they were new teeth, that decay built up over time from stagnant lymph in my mouth, based on Dr. Morse's teachings, of course, and with that understanding and seeing what happened there with the lymph stagnation and the build-up of waste over the new vegan lifestyle that I'd established, I had all manner of skin issues, really bad psoriasis on the scalp, where if you wanted to have a white Christmas and have snow here in Australia, just start scratching my head and you'll have enough snow for the whole neighborhood. It was that bad. Red, pink scalp, burning in the skin. I'd hate summers. I loved heat, but the summers would burn, man. The skin would burn. The liquid in my eyes would burn. So much acidosis, and it was around that point when Dr. Morse did my. It was actually after that, but around that time, maybe in a year period, he did my case, and he pointed out things that I was already experiencing. He's like, this sort of lymphatic system, you're going to be experiencing burning of the skin, itching on the skin, burning in the saliva glands, the membranes in the mouth, all of that. And he's like, you need to get the pressure out of your head. So that led me, ultimately, these things as a child led me into this world. I didn't really want to go down this path. I wanted to eat what I want, do what I want. That's why ultimately it led to me having a tooth pulled out. And when I was sitting there in the dentist chair, I was like, this will soon be all my teeth if I don't do anything about this. And then I'll just have veneers or fake teeth, which will cost me whatever that, tens of thousands of dollars in this country. And that was like a catalyst. It wasn't everything. Humans are hard learners. Still took me a bit to get off of it, off the addiction to these other foods. But that was a big turning point for me. And then after graduating Dr. Morse's school, and helping people and setting up by helping people for free, and then seeing that turn into being able to support myself by doing that as well. And what I've seen with clients since then has been an absolute miracle, man. You can see why people referred to these things as miraculous back in the day, but it's just nature working through you. And those that have decaying teeth or skin problems, these main things that I had, it doesn't have to be that way. But understanding that was a serious issue from childhood, and that I'm still doing that work. But when you hydrate the body, I've realized that you can feel $1 million before everything's even sorted. You can be riding that horse out into the sunset. The sunset's still there. You may not be there yet, but it's a journey, and I wouldn't want it to be any other way, man. And here we are now having discussions like this. So that's sort of the not so short version of it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, I appreciate that. It's very hard to condense your life into a few minutes. Like I appreciate that. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great overview, and I think for so many people, especially people I've interviewed, the greatest pain is often your greatest teacher, and then you use that pain and those gifts to then help others. So it's even more powerful when you've had a bit of a rocky starting point yourself, and that way people can see that it is possible. I think a lot of people on the internet are inherently skeptical, though. They hear these interviews, they watch videos, they're like, I don't think it'll work for me. That's often a thing. It's like, oh, he's a genetic outlier or something like that, which when you understand how the body works like you do, and like a lot of the people in the more natural health world do understand, then you understand that it's basic principles, it's chemistry,
Yeah.
it's energetics, it's all very simple, but we just overcomplicate it. So I guess for anyone who's maybe a little bit skeptical of the kind of things that you've seen firsthand or Dr. Morse has seen, like Regenerate, what would you say are like some of the most profound cases of, people recovering? What sort of things do you see people
Yeah.
heal from?
Well, Dylan, it's one of those things that skepticism is a good thing, because if we just believe anything we hear,
Yeah,
that can get you into trouble. And we already know what that looks like in the Western medical field in a lot of ways.
seen that the last 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. And even just bringing it back just briefly to when I was a child, they had no idea what was wrong with me. They could never give a reason, a causative factor. They couldn't give really like where this was coming from. I was known as the miracle baby at one stage. They even did testing on me, like completely immoral testing on me without my mother's consent. She had to sign a waiver to have me removed from the hospital, saying she acknowledges to be responsible for the death of her son, something along those lines. This is what the medical system was doing, and it's still fairly in the same realm. I have a friend that's a medical nurse who works in oncology. Anyone doesn't know what oncology is, that's post-chemo treatment. He said it's a sad place. A nurse friend there is someone 45 years as a nurse there, and she's said, what are we doing here? Because nothing's changing. So there's people in that field starting to look differently. And it's good. They're skeptical. They're seeing that what they've been doing on the Western front, so to speak, is not really quite as robust and refined and conclusive as they may think. So when I discovered Dr. Morse and I saw, boasting 53 years, 52, 54 years of this work, and then that part of me was like, oh, well, his studies aren't on PubMed, they aren't on that. And I was like, oh, it can't be true. But then as it started to unfold, I started to see, is true health in the best interest of studies? Is that where funding is going? And really, what is this term testimonial I'm hearing? And I found out that testimonial is a client or a patient of Dr. Morse or someone that's worked with him or with a practitioner. This is before I was a practitioner, that was essentially just talking about their healing. And I started to see a common theme in the healing. And that is that even if not even 100% of their things got better, that there was more than like 40, 50%, 60% of their problems get better in a short period of time, with some humps and bumps. And that part didn't quite understand me, the whole detoxification part. But then long term, I started seeing that these changes became more and more profound. And then I started discovering people getting out of wheelchairs, getting rid of tumors, dissolving and regenerating eyesight. And then so when I started working after studying with Dr. Morse, I did it all online, but the great thing online is you can go back to the school space and do the courses again. I've done them three or four times. My whole wall behind me is just diagrams and little reminders of things and pHs and so forth, and bodily functions. And what I started to see was that people that attended this coursework, they were having the same people that had already done this program, these protocols, with fruits and herbs, that started to see the same things. And I was like, okay, well, there must be some causative factor here. And then once getting back to chemistry, it reminded me of school. The chemistry teacher showing you causative factors in nature, yin and yang, hot and cold, light and dark. These are like fundamental truths in nature. And I find it very interesting with a lot of the intellectuals or the scholars in this day and age that tout that fans of Socrates and the Greeks, referring to logic. People were ignoring the fact that logic was a made-up premise of the Greeks, and there's a second law of logic, and that is the logic of double standard. So that is, if you don't apply something in one area and it's not consistent elsewhere, then is it really true? So we see that with chemistry. We have to apply yin and yang, hot and cold, acid base. We have to apply these principles all throughout nature to find a consistency, and there is a consistency there. And what really we're seeing is when you change the chemistry you consume, all manner of disease symptoms just seem to just dissipate. Initially, you can have disease symptoms in terms of detoxification symptoms, which match disease symptoms, funnily enough. And then what I've seen is, while sort of just bringing in this, sorry, this silly alarm that went off. What I've seen from working with my own clients is what really got me my jaw to hit the floor is I wasn't seeing this on behalf of Dr. Morse. I was seeing this firsthand through clients. One of my first clients ever grew back her hair from advanced alopecia in 6 months. And we have videos, we have the testimonial on my YouTube, and it's there. She's there showing what she's done. And then that was the first most remarkable one, because you just see in this day and age, if you lose hair, you can't get it back. You know, you see people time and time again. There's maybe a tumor person. Oh yeah, that person got rid of a tumor. It's more people know about it a little bit more. But regrowing your hair really, or less grey hair, or whatever it may be. And my mother as well. I don't have this as a testimonial, but just as a personal account. She's gone down like 2 or 3 magnifications in her glasses, and the optometrist said, "Yeah, well, sometimes we see improvement, but this level we don't see this." But client-wise, tissue regeneration of hair regeneration from losing most of her hair. That was a big one for me. I had a client as well with type 1, and unfortunately his wife was really not a nice person, and within 4 weeks was on the lowest amount of insulin. And type 1 is one of those things you just don't ever see really improve, and they say it's genetic, blah, 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 and you can't get rid of it. And he was so on board, but his wife just didn't allow him, and I never heard from him again. But I was like, man, that would have been the best case. You know, type 1, you know, this is the one that people just don't really understand. But that was a big game changer for me. And since then, I've had people with tumors, cancers on the face, chronic skin conditions. I had a lady like 70-80% of her body covered in like red, powdery burning on her skin go away. And then one of the biggest ones has recently been of one that sort of went viral in a way, is helping people with HSV, herpes, oral and genital herpes. And I had a guy, Abdul Karim, his testimonials all over the internet now, and I've had a lot of people come to me from that, and I have a few testimonials in the works at the moment. Again, at the moment, people clinically reversing HSV using their testing methods, not some pseudo method that we've got. It's using their clinical methods to show that the blood and the body no longer has these viral loads in them. And that just showed me time and time again, okay, there's something to this, and it was reaffirmed again. And now it's no shadow of a doubt that that's where healing is, and beyond the scope of suffering that most humans endure. What really is the potential of life? Who knows? Because most of us are coming from a place of suffering, as Dr. Moore said it. What humans are really coming from a place of bliss and easefulness, where you don't feel the body, you don't feel the aches and pains. That alone is just an absolute godsend, where you can move around and not feel like you're in a body. It's like having shoes on that you don't feel on your feet. You shouldn't feel the shoes if they're a good fit. They should feel like effortless. And the same in your body. It should feel the same. And to end this, I've had some of the coolest success initially, which can sort of lap into another segment here, is that if you're too old, you're beyond repair. I had 2 clients in a close proximity, both of which have put reviews on my Google written by them in their 70s, one of which was his memory loss was so advanced that he forgot where he was in the call. His wife had to facilitate the call, and I believe it was 9 months. He got down very lean. He put back on 10 kilos of new tissue on the fruit and herb diet after going down to very little, and he now can think with much more clarity. He can walk upstairs without assistance. That in a 73, 75-year-old is nuts in a 9-month window. And he was going down Alzheimer's direction. He was going down, deep brain degeneration. And managed to pull him out of that. And we'll be having a video testimonial coming very soon, which will be incredible. And this is, again, the old people. So it's like, just because you age, genetics, that's a big part. The eyes can show that. So it's exciting stuff, Dylan. It could be here a long time, but at the moment, I've got some testimonials in the works there, quite a few Google reviews there, and then turning those Google reviews into video testimonials where people are speaking what they've done. And this isn't isolated. We're seeing this in a lot of groups. A lot of practitioners that are active in getting their clients to do the work properly are seeing similar, if not the same results, because ultimately, as you said, chemistry is chemistry. The way things work is the way things work. It's not a matter of opinion. It's just what we're seeing. And I'm always open for something new to show us something different. But when there's laws fixed, man, if you put diesel in a petrol car, it won't turn on. The human body, though, it's very forgiving until it isn't.
I know, 100%. I think I said that in a recent video as well. Like, I was using that analogy, and I thought, actually, like you say, with a car, just wouldn't run. We're so lucky that we can put
Yeah,
suboptimal fuel in, and our body
yeah.
still somehow manages to cope. But
It's so kind to us until it's
I
like it is
know,
enough. We've had enough.
I know, but it's super empowering. Like you say, people of
Yeah,
any age, because there's so many limiting beliefs. We all have them, but
yeah,
especially the older generation, they're very
yeah,
set in their ways, and they think, "Oh, it can't
yeah,
happen to me. I'm too
yeah,
old." And
yeah,
it's really empowering. So it's great to hear. It's sometimes really hard with friends and family though. Like I myself, there's elderly friends and family who are suffering with a lot of ailments, and you try your best to help them with the knowledge you have, but sometimes it's too close to home, and yeah, they just they don't resonate. Their generation is a bit stuck in their ways, but it's great to see that there's people who are willing to sort of step outside the mainstream paradigm and
Well,
just yeah, go ahead.
no, I was going to share a recent account with a family member, but about that with the older generation. But please finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's nice to see that people are willing to, if they have a will to change. Where there's a will, there's a way, and
Yeah,
I think that's really empowering. But yeah, what were you going to say
yeah,
about your family member?
yeah. I think. Well, before I get into that, I think as well that when you're older, or when it's like if something's more filthy, it's like if you trash something, like a vehicle, for example. The longer you leave it dirty and it gets dirtier, there's more to clean. There's more work to do.
Yeah,
So there's that fear as well that I'm too fragile and I'm too far gone. And yeah, the detox for certain people can be pretty rough. But it's interesting with the genetic side of things. My grandma's genetics are way stronger than the modern child because we have genetic weakening. We have the genetic pass that happens each generation. We can turn that around. There was the Pottinger's cat experiment where they had the cats on cooked meat and raw. People can check that out, but it was showing that it can take a few generations in the cats to get back to a baseline. I think it's quicker for humans because fruits are a higher neurological and chemical frequency than meat, but it just shows that it can still be done. And even though something might be rough or a bit challenging, doesn't mean that you're dying. Uh, it doesn't mean that things are getting worse. There was a great quote by I think a Norwegian poet I heard, and that is that people are dying so slowly that they are they're given the delusion that they're living. That they're literally under the delusion they're living because things seem so slow until they're not. It's like that those people that wake up one day and have all manner of problems. But I never got sick before. I was always well. And that's I'll even say to people when clients of mine they go, I never get sick. I've never been sick before. And you go, well, if you've been eating a subpar diet and you haven't been sick, that's a concern in my books. Shows your body's not eliminating well. But a recent account with a family member was one that my grandma actually that went to hospital. Her blood pressure went through the floor. She was having like pancreatic attacks, and my whole family was. My mum was there, my uncle was there, and they saw her literally on a deathbed. We were pretty much ready for her to die. We prepared for her to die, I think 3 times, and she was the oldest person in the ward by a long shot as well. My mum said, and pretty much what happened is my mum managed to slip her in adrenal herbs that I personally made, and some I think grape and apple juice. And literally within half an hour, she was awake. She was walking around. She went to the bathroom, and my uncle said to her, "Just a process of elimination. What they've been doing here has been making her worse, and what you did, I can't help but look at that." And he's someone that if you get some sort of diagnosis, it's straight away antibiotics, and then if you get cancer, you get chemo. She's now on a fruit and herb and cooked vegetable diet. She's on a herbal protocol. She's lost a significant amount of weight, but she said her energy has been unlike anything she's ever experienced in a long time. And she's 82, I believe, 81. And she went bald from steroid therapy. She lost all her hair years ago. And at one point, she was on a grape diet, had new hair growing, but then stopped it. And I was like, it was right in front of you. But now she's reached the point, she was in hospital, and she just wants to, she's realized, she's like, I haven't looked after myself. And there were some rough moments with her. I was helping her remotely. She's over on the other state, on the other side of the country. But just that alone, seeing the family members there, seeing people that can't help but witness what's in front of them, because they were going to put her into surgery with low blood pressures, and I just said, get the anaesthetist to come in because I'll be very surprised if they would allow her to go under anesthetic into sleep if with that blood pressure. And yeah, he said, yeah, we wouldn't want to do that, even though the doctor was saying it was fine. So I think that's pretty mean that you'll actually tell a patient of yours that that's safe, even though it's actually not. It's essentially a coin flip with that level of blood pressures. People just look up propofol. That's what they use to put you under, and you'll get some good results on what that does to your adrenal glands and kidneys. But yeah, it was a beautiful recent account, and I'm really eager to see what happens to her. And if she's game, I will do a video with her for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really great to hear. I look forward to seeing that if you do decide to make a video with her. But yeah, because like a family member, like a while back, this is one thing I don't like with the medical world. I'm sure you can agree with these diagnoses and the kind of nocebo effect. So when you give someone a diagnosis and it's like, oh, you've got 12 months to live, the stressful state that puts people in is just so disempowering. And oftentimes it's like the old Aborigine tribes, I'm sure you know, pointing the bone at people and people just convincing themselves they were cursed and then just dying just because of stress and shock. So I think these diagnoses are just, they're awful. And for this particular family member, they heard the diagnosis, they then got a chunk out of their brain removed, which I'm sure you know is a lot harder to regenerate once you've had something cut out. But then he went on fruits for a while and he seemed to be picking up, seemed good energy, then got to kind of the life expectancy date that he was given, and then he kind of was like, oh, what's the point, like I'm meant to die any day now. So it's disempowering. And I think the fact that you are able to regenerate people and you're seeing, your 82-year-old grandmother regenerating is so amazing, because if anyone does get that diagnosis, this isn't medical advice, but one of the worst things you can do is just panic and sort of conform to that, because as Jake's showing, it is possible to regenerate. Did you have any thoughts?
What's also really sad with it's the power of the word again. There's a book, Four Agreements, that I recommend anyone to listen to or read. And the power of the word is a big part of that, about being sincere with your word. And I'll be the first to say to a client, I just don't know. What I do know is how the body regenerates. And what I do know is that when you take away the obstruction, we see things get better and better. I can't give a time frame on how long that will be. But the thing with pharmaceuticals is you can control symptomology very easily. When you use suppression, it's very easy to get a ballpark of when something will be suppressed ultimately. And what I saw at the hospital, through my mum recording audio of the doctors in the room talking to my grandma, like gaslighting her, saying she was saying other things. She was there literally blacking out mid-conversation, and they thought that was a coherent conversation. And what world is someone blacking out a coherent conversation, mate, when they don't even know where they are? That's how out of it she was. Her blood pressure's got to nearly single digits, man, which should kill you. Like, it was bad. And my friend, there was a nurse looking at the screen. He was during Easter, actually, Easter holiday break. And that's when we thought she was going to pass. And it was really seeing the power of their word. But what was amazing is my mum was there, and she would question them on the nonsense that came out of their mouths, because they had no clue. They literally had no clue. They'll happily say this is the expectancy, and then the poor patient is there believing in something which is just based on a guess. It's based on a guess of a system that ultimately, from what I've seen based on my medical nurse friend, for a group that says one size doesn't fit all, they do the exact same thing for essentially everyone that comes through those doors. And that is take bloods, let it culture for a few days, see what bacterium can respond to it, and they will prescribe a pretty aggressive antibiotic strain. If that doesn't help, we start going to surgeries. If that doesn't help, typically you see a lot of deaths from complications in the hospital. My friend used the term, I think it was hospitalization complication death syndrome or something like that. Some term where it's like they developed something whilst they were under treatment. But they do this in this country, at least, to cover their bases, because they legally have to do it. So I understand that there's a whole different way of doing things. But when it comes back to the word, be really careful, guys, no matter who you are, with what you say to people. Because I have clients say they've got the cancer diagnosis, and I try to show them, let's get that cancer word, get a big bonfire and burn it. Because we don't need that here. Because that's not a phrase, it's not a word that we're going to even entertain. Because the amount of fear tied to that, and how much the believing of that is tied to someone's healing, is profound. The mind, I've seen the mind completely crush people's ability to heal, that negativity, wrong environment, and that's why it's so important. But I've also seen people in a negative state just start to feel the benefits of a fruit and herb diet, and then their mind change. So it's like can also happen first. But if you're really locked into fear because of the power of the word, we can take a dip back in time to someone that didn't have the internet and managed to convince almost an entire group of people to wipe out another group of people in Germany. You know, that wasn't that long ago, not even 100 years ago, and that's just the power of the word using radio. So again, man, you're absolutely right. We've got to be really careful, and it's sad that a lot of these phrases can be thrown around. I have to get clients out of crying fits from what they've heard from a doctor or a specialist, and often they're treated unfairly as well. And this is by no means an attack on medical doctors as a whole. I personally know some really nice medical doctors who are doing amazing work, but it's like in any industry. You can find, I know practitioners that will leave their clients in the dust, and I'm there going, what are you doing? Why are you not supporting your client? They need your help. They're in a healing crisis. Why didn't you reply to them? But we've got to learn as human beings, and we've got to be honest and truthful, and integrity is number one. And I've never seen anyone have more integrity than Dr. Morse. That's what drew me over there. So
amazing. I think, yeah, like you say, it's the power of the word is so important. You know, the words we speak, just being authentic, being honest, is so important, because a part of our soul dies when we're being inauthentic or when we're entertaining these lower vibration thoughts and emotions, like you say, fear, guilt and shame. Have you heard of David Hawkins with Power versus Force? Yeah. So I'll put on screen now like a chart, but every emotion has a certain energetic vibration, and if we're in guilt, shame, fear, you feel disempowered. And I'd just ask anyone who is thinking about going the mainstream route, just to consider the success rate. Consider all your friends and family who have tried that route, and where are they now? Are they thriving in life, or what's the success rate? Because hospitals and things never tell you their success rate. They're not open with it, and it's a survival rate, not a thrive, like, you know, how your thriving rate. It's
that's a good point, man.
Yeah, it's lifespan. Yeah, lifespan versus health span. It's a completely different thing. And some you touched on earlier. I just want to revisit about the energetic frequency of fruits, because obviously this has been studied that every food has a vibration. I think they call it angstroms, and it's like, you know, fruit is some of the highest, maybe around 10,000. Then you've got vegetables and other foods. I'll probably put on screen a chart as well, just so it helps visualize it. But I'd like you to just elaborate maybe on the actual cooking of food, especially like what it does to the energy of foods, and why maybe cooking our food isn't as beneficial as tainted in the mainstream world.
Sure. Well, I think for one, we already you look at fire, and when you apply fire to something, you see the decay and the shriveling of something taking place. You see color loss. You see you get yourself. It's like you look at a pink flower. If you were to boil that, it's not going to look so pretty anymore. So from a physical point of view, you see something's not so attractive anymore. There's some sort of break. You've like accelerated the breaking or the decaying process. But from a point of life energy or life force, you could say, we know that too much heat. I think it's over in Celsius. It's I think in Fahrenheit it's like 150 or something, 160. But in Celsius, if anything over around 70 to 80 degrees Celsius, you're going to start seeing the destruction of enzymes. And enzymes, little helpers. You have the pancreas that produces digestive enzymes. So this is why you see someone that has pancreatic problems, just cooking foods alone is just not a good idea, because your body's struggling to produce enzymes on its own anyway. You have insulin production from the pancreas, you have beta cells. You've got a lot going on there that the pancreas is struggling with. So enzymes alone is just, if I eat cooked food and I have no enzymes, what do? Then you have the probiotic world comes in. You have cultured foods that people are touting to save the thing. And it's like, well, that's fermentation. That's bringing back life force, but it's bringing in a decaying part of the cycle of life ultimately. And so on an energetic level, Secret Life of Plants went into this really well. I really recommend that book to people. It's on Audible and Amazon. It's just an incredible look at the consciousness of plants. And then they went into the energetics as well with angstroms, or other people refer to it as units of electromagnetic energy. When you cook food, you lower energy. So you have the enzyme loss, that's one thing, but then you have the electromagnetic principle. I think they had, was it Kirlian photography, showed
Yeah.
that pretty clearly, the energetic loss of a cooked apple versus a raw apple. And your body, yeah, fluctuates. I believe it's around 6,000 units of electromagnetic energy or angstroms. And then fruit is 10 to 12,000 units. 12, from my understanding, being like blackberries, dark berries, and grapes. This is again why you see deep regeneration on grapes for people. The Grape Cure book is another great one people can check out. But law of homeostasis, again, these laws of nature that are everywhere. There's law of homeostasis. If you have a body that fluctuates at 6,000 units of electromagnetic energy and the food that is intaking is 10 to 12,000, this happens. Does anyone remember that test at school? We have two balls bouncing at different rates. They eventually meet the same happy medium. The faster one slows down, the slow one's brought up. You may not witness it with your eyes, but it's happening at some point there. That's law of homeostasis. The same thing happens in the other direction. You have a low energy food, cooked dairy, refined grains, processed cooked foods. You have it next to nothing almost, in some cases a few hundred, and you have this pull down. You know, people talk about food comas and being tired after eating. Even just the needing to drink with a meal should not be something that we experience if you're eating a raw diet. Even some complex raw salads can be too much happening. You go back to the fruit world and just you're there not thirsty. So the application of heat, you're lowering the energetic principle of the food. The angstrom level is being lowered from the application of heat, and that alone, what you're exposing to your cells. You're exposing a lower version of consciousness, a lower frequency to your body. Your body's going to match that. You know, they say you are what you eat, and I've heard that it's said that around 7 years is what it takes for a full regeneration of the physical body if you were to live on our species-specific diet. That being, in my opinion, and Dr. Morse's and many others, being a frugivorous diet based on just our anatomy and physiology. And that, again, raw foods, no other species on the planet. What do we have? 8.4 to 8.7 land animals. Not one of them is cooking their food except us and domesticated animals, and we're the only ones that have chronic disease. I think that speaks for itself.
100%. I agree wholeheartedly. I think, like you say, it just makes so much sense, like logically, spiritually, it aligns it ticks every box. Like you say, our anatomy, our physiology, we are designed for fruit. The way we can see color, our hands, the length of our digestive tract, all of it. And for anyone who has tried maybe a fruit cleanse or something, just temporarily, even on a standard diet, you do notice how much more energy you have, and I think it's super empowering. On a tangent, I saw someone the other day, and it was saying that the water from, you know, Lourdes in France, or Lourdes, I think, without the ES, is like 14,000 angstroms of energy. So that probably explains why it has such healing powers. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, they maybe hear this, maybe, you know, they know about all the benefits, or maybe they know they can do something, but maybe they don't practically know what to do just to maybe get started, or to empower themselves. What would you say are just, I know obviously when you work with people it's more tailored, and obviously you can get people better results customized, but in terms of like general principles, what would you say, how can people start like empowering themselves and healing and reversing their diseases?
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to just take back their health and know that it's in their hands, it's no one else is going to do it for you. You're sailing your own ship at the end of the day. The ship is your physical body, the crew is your cells, and then what they speak is your in your inner dialogue, I call it, and then the ocean is life. You can't control that, but you can fortify your ship. And I love using this analogy with clients with my accountability coaching too, because when you have like a tangible analogy, it becomes more real, and really, because we are all human beings, we're not that different. We have different weaknesses, we have different strengths. How I coach someone and what I'll recommend for someone will be different, not based on them being a different human being, as in, oh well, your heart's in a different spot, your digestive system's a different length. It's based on what medications have they been on, and what lifestyle they lived before. Can a raw diet 100% be actually safe for them? Maybe not for this individual. Maybe I need to use some mucusless diet healing principles, thanks to Professor Spira and of course Professor Arnold Ehret, he was a huge influence for Dr. Morse. and a great pioneer in true traditional naturopathy. And really what you can do simply is just, I say to everyone, if you change this one thing in your lifestyle, consume fruit as the first meal that you have in the day. Just that alone, you're going to see a plethora of problems, lethargy, clarity of mind just lift. What can happen if you go all fruitarian or all fruit and herbs very quickly, or even too clean too quickly for that matter, that being even mucusless foods, is you can see actually energy drops quite substantially. This is not to do with the fact that the energy in the food is poor, but if you've relied on stimulation, caffeine, protein, and you've removed stimulation, the adrenal glands, which are responsible for neurotransmitters, ATP, ANP, hormone, sugar metabolism, they're no longer being stimulated, so they're going to drop, especially if you have a weakness there. So it's really important if you're someone that just gets a blood pressure reading and you see that your blood pressures are on the low side, which I'd likely say if you're experiencing lethargy and so forth, that is the case, you can pretty safely take some licorice root. So licorice root is not advised or recommended even by certified like board physicians for like naturopathic boards and so on with higher blood pressures, because it's a natural non-invasive stimulant, if you will, for the adrenal glands, which doesn't fatigue it. It's helping them produce more ATP and energy there, and that's essential for energy to get on with your day. So I hope people that have started, because you see the world with carnivore and so on, you see people having miraculous turnarounds with just in a few weeks. And we've got to understand stimulation versus vital energy coming into the body. So I really wanted to add that there, Dylan, just because people might go, well, I went on a fruit diet and I was there for 2 weeks and I hit the floor pretty quickly. And I'll say to them, yeah, very common, you'll have an increase and then you'll see some deep detox happen. That's not reflective of an inferior diet. It's the fact that there's a low neurological response happening, and this is my opinion, and then that you've got the need of some herbs and some assistance in weakened areas of the body there, which will help you immensely. And then once you get out of that feeling of just being on a high, if you will, where you don't need nothing else, as you said, that energy that comes in, yeah, you can't. If you have those who go, a few have gone, and those who go where few have gone will see what few have seen. I believe Socrates said that, or Aristotle. That's what I'll say to you. You know, it's not going to be rainbows and butterflies the whole time, but if you can take some herbs for the kidneys, if you can get some herbs for the adrenal glands, if you can support the endocrine gland system and get yourself on some good fruit juices, maybe some herb fruit juices as well, start your day with some fruits in the morning, as being just the main thing I would suggest to those if they want to try anything. Just that alone, get the food that you're bringing into your body when you awaken back into the world of consciousness in every day to day. That's going to be a huge game changer, and that may be the catalyst which gets you delving into more fruits.
Absolutely, that's great recommendations. That's 100%. That's what I say to anyone of any level of diet or health. Like, if you can start your day right with fruit and exercise or any other good habits, then it just compounds for the rest of the day. You probably find yourself with more energy, and then maybe your second meal you want more fruit. So, like you say, it's great. And I think also what you touched on with symptomology and maybe short-term benefits from approaches like keto and carnivore is super important, because I've also observed the same. Like there's pages, like I know every diet has its people who aren't thriving on it, but there's pages of carnivore people who, I can't remember the name, but on Instagram there's a big page with like a lot of people who are struggling on carnivore, and initially you get benefits where, like you say, it suppresses the symptoms, it stagnates the lymphatic fluid, so you don't get the detoxification symptoms. But then down the line, then you start having, heart palpitations, you're depleting your electrolytes, you're super high blood pressure, maybe heart attacks, things like that, which I'm glad you touched on that, because I do know people who dabble in that world and they get benefits initially, but where are these people 5-10 years down the line? I'm not seeing people who are doing this for decades, and I know people say people are thriving on this lifestyle, but I haven't seen anyone doing it for decades. Like on this channel, there's been people on vegan and raw vegan diets who have been thriving for literally decades, 40, 50 years. I'm just not seeing it on the carnivore approach, and I think it's super important you speak up on it, because I used to be a little bit more peaceful on this topic, but I think it's super harmful. It's super harmful. We can't
Oh
we
man.
can't we can't beat around the bush and ignore these things. Yeah,
I
did you have
agree,
a
Dylan, and it brings me back to a simple line from the Essene Gospel of Peace that Jesus said, and it's a book that I love to reference. That people will say it's not real or whatever, and I go, it speaks for itself. How can you get life from death? If you're eating corpses, how are you going to get life from that? We talked about the cooking of the food. When you have raw food, in this Essene Gospel of Peace, it's referred to as letting the food, if you sprout something, let it be sprouted in the water, the angel of water, and heated by the angel of sunlight, meaning raw. Let the herb-bearing seed be your food, and let it be heated by the sun, not by fire. And that alone is a very simple premise, not hard to grasp. And I think in Tao Te Ching it says, scholars are seldom the wisest people are seldom scholars. That's another one that I like to say. And I will often drop those sort of lines with clients and people because without making a claim, you can just say something and let that drop and land how it lands. And I think these understanding the laws of nature based on chemistry, which is fixed, and I think that's what's great is you can go back to a foundation that is not changing. People say that things are constantly evolving, but fire burns, ice is cold. That doesn't change. The sun is hot. These things are just almost too simplistic for some minds to grasp. And when you go into a stagnating lifestyle that suppresses lymphatic movement, I've got a client right now, same age as me. She did not have a menstrual cycle, meaning she did not have the hormonal production for nearly 10 years on a carnivore diet. She was literally skin and bone. She was really emaciated, and 3.5 to 4 weeks with me, she had her menstrual cycle come back, and which means her hormones would have been happening. She felt like a woman again, and it was a perfect 3-day cycle. It went away, no excessive bleeding, and that is just incredible. I'm still working with her right now. We're going through a few healing crises at the moment, but when you know what the end result is of cleaning, it's like did cleaning your room that was neglected take 5 seconds? Did cleaning up an old abandoned house, whatever it may be, a renovation of some kind, did that take just the day? No, we've got a process in which we have to follow, but people are looking for that quick fix, and I'm so glad that there's groups now of people in the carnivore movement expressing their problems and struggles because they are very real, and we live in a world now where there's modern Christians saying that eating meat is what Jesus said, and I think it's really sad to see this because it's pretty much saying that the result is violence. Healing, we have to have a lot of violence in order for there to be healing, and it's my opinion that it's a universal truth that just cannot be the way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have majority of animals on this planet being herbivorous and non-carnivorous. I believe it's in the 70-something%. As of like a statistic of 2015, but I don't know where exactly, so don't quote me on that from a source, but I did hear from a documentary, I think it was Cowspiracy, that most species on this planet are herbivorous. They eat plants. So we have to have that. And it's sad because you do have people that gain traction online and they see all these amazing results. You see what they're eating, 12, 15 eggs in a meal, steak with butter, and it's a shame because you see them struggle, you see these people waiting for it to get better, and I get people coming my way not understanding certain detox symptoms, and you get them on a good herbal protocol, you get them transitioning, you get to see how quickly they can get onto fruit and herbs, and you see them pick up more and more and more and more. And I had a lady recently, took her over a month, she wanted to go on juices, she did that fine, she wanted to keep going, I said you don't have to, she did. After 30 days, it was when she really started to feel like $1 million 24/7. And someone might say, wait, 30 days, that's ages, but you reap what you sow. It took her a little bit of time, but she had some stagnation in the bowels. We got on top of that, and pretty much once that was tackled, all the energy just comes in. Energy distribution is a huge thing. How much energy is going to healing, how much energy is going to external means, which is why you see people as well, they may be overtraining while they're on a detoxification. That's not really a wise choice, in my opinion. It's like, where does the energy need to go? I'm glad people are speaking up about this, Dylan, because there's never been bigger polarizing pillars right now, carnivore and fruit. And I wanted to end this actually with someone who's really, end this little rant of mine, with a doctor that's pretty well known now, Dr. Paul Saladino. He's on a fruit and a meat diet. his diet went through the roof as soon as he added fruit. He spoke about how the meat-only diet resulted in neuropathy, nerve damage, nerve pain. I think he was having memory problems, hormonal issues on a carnivore diet that he on TV was claiming was the best thing since sliced bread. He's now added fruit, fruit juices, and I believe raw honey and raw dairy into his diet, and he calls his diet an animal-based diet. You've got to be kidding me. That diet is flooded with fruit, fruit juices, and raw honey, and you're telling me that's an animal-based diet? That diet improved when he added fruit, and he will not say that wasn't true, because that was true, and he stated that it was. But he's still, the fact that he says it's an animal-based diet, I think, is a disservice to Mother Nature and the fruits that she provides, because that's the fruit kingdom helping you there, not the meat kingdom, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Great points. I think, like you say, there's so many different levels that if you just to look at logically, take all the dogma out, take all the divisiveness, the duality out of it, and you just look at a species-specific design, like we talked about. Look at the energetic component of the food you're eating. You've got fruits at around 10,000. Meat is very low. It's lower than the actual energy of a human body, which says it all. It's got no fibre. It's got hardly any water. It takes so long to digest. Like some of these carnivores, they go in toilet once a week, which is crazy. On this lifestyle, it's like 2, 3, 4 times a day. Whenever you eat, you should really have a bowel movement within half an hour or so. So I think that's super important. I would like to just brush over real quickly the topic of more like acid and alkaline forming foods and mucus forming foods, because I think some people, they hear the concept of like acid and alkaline, and some people, they think it's just the actual pH of the food and not what it does internally, if it's acid forming in the body or alkaline in the body. So if you could just, like, you know, for a real beginner who hears these terms and they don't know what they are, when you're talking about like acid forming foods, alkaline forming foods, and foods that move lymph and, you know, are astringent, can you just like give a real high level overview of that kind of concept?
Sure. Well, I think a simple premise to understand is that the human body, and I'm just going to use a Dr. Morse expression, that we are alkaline by design, acid by function. I'll use the analogy of a car. We have alkaline fuels. We have carbon-based fuels. Petroleum is a carbon-based fuel. The planet is pretty much carbon is the fuel source on this planet. Maybe it's different on other planets, but in chemistry, it's consistent in that manner. And carbon has to be burnt off. Obviously, not every level of carbon is fit. We're not going to drink petroleum, are we? But it is a carbon fuel source, meaning its molecules are made from carbon chains. So when you consume that into the vehicle, its byproduct is acidic. Fumes that come out of a car is acidic. The end result of that process is an acid burning combustion, hence combustion engine function. And the human body is really no different. It is ultimately an in and out system. There's food that comes in, we have chemistry within that food. There are acid principles, there are alkaline principles in that food. The body has minor hormones, minor acid hormones like estrogen and testosterone, which is the acidic hormones, I believe around 5.5 pH. Some can get down to around the 4.5. As soon as we start going to the 3 pH and below, we're going into tissue damage area territory, like 3 pH is Coca-Cola. Even hotter than that, 2.5, 2.3 is Gatorade and Powerade. I believe it was the Minnesota School of Dentistry. I have a slide on my computer showing that they are some of the most acidic beverages on the planet, and yet they are touted as hydrators. And I believe it was NBA or some sport group sued them for claiming that they hydrated, and they said they didn't. So again, be wary about advertising. I digress. But the aspect of chemistry and alkaline is, you know, there's a lot of people going, "Oh, that's acidic, that's alkaline." But when we understand that everything has some level of acid and alkaline of chemistry balance going on, we just got to look at fruit and raw foods as a whole as having more alkaline properties. Doesn't mean they're completely alkaline. You've got orange and lemon that have more acid principles. We've got bananas and sweeter fruits which are more alkaline. And this just comes down to the whole sugar debate, that sugar in fruit cannot be acidic because it's a carbon molecule. Carbon molecules aren't acidic. That would be nitrogen molecules, which is what makes up protein chains. So in chemistry, it's impossible for that to damage tissue. So when they say that sugar is cancer forming and so forth. It's like, what sugar type are you looking at? Are you looking at a burnt refined sugar? Are you looking at sugar in processed candies with other compounds that aren't naturally found in nature? So when we understand that the food we have that comes in has a property of both, and there's a system that deals with acid, that's the lymph system, and then our body takes minerals for functions of the body. There's chemistry exchanges, and then there's the release of that waste through the lymph system, and that has to go out the exhaust pipe, if you will, one being your bowels, one being your urine, for kidney filtration. Then it's easier for us to grasp that there's essentially a combustion effect happening, a combustion process within the human body. And really the mucus forming versus mucus dense foods, I would really describe it as this. And that is that if you have a food that's highly acidic, you're going to invoke a mucosic response, meaning the lymphatic system is going to produce more lipids, more fat, more mucus to defend the tissue from being damaged from those acids. That is something that is mucus forming. But then you have what I would say is like mucus dense foods in and of themselves, breads, cheeses, pastas, that are gluey and mucousy in and of themselves, and then they're acidic too. So you've got a double hit. You've got something that's stagnant in mucus that your body doesn't handle well. You use rice to make paper mache. You've got dairy, which is just the most congesting thing really under the sun, in my opinion. And then you've got processed grains and legumes and things that are mucousy and protein dense. You've got the mucus from that itself, and then you've got the mucosic response from the lymphatic system. And the thing with fruits is, unless it's an avocado or an unripe fruit, they have very little, if any, mucosic response when it comes to your body needing to defend the tissue, because they're mostly water. Banana's like 80% water, and that's not a hydrating fruit. And then you've got the chemistry of the low protein, if any, amino acid profiles, mineral profiles, and simple sugars. And it's not an unknown fact in this, and even in the Western world, that you have to have sugar for energy. It's just the fuel source back to the carbon molecules. So I got a little bit intellectual with it, but if we can understand is the combustion side of things, and then the mucus forming versus mucus dense foods, another great, or pus forming. You can also go to the Mucusless Diet Healing System book, and there's tables on that of which foods produce more mucus in the body, which foods have mucus in them. And this is why you see the mucosic response from chili, very hot, straight away your nose is running, your body's producing lymph right off the bat.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of people actually say about chili, it's like detoxifying, but from my understanding, it's not detoxifying. Like you say, it's actually eliciting a mucosa response, and it's instantaneous. It's because our body's like, it doesn't want it. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It has no desirable qualities. I hate the taste of it.
Yeah.
But
me too, man. I used to love it though. But yeah, it's stimulative. It's an irritant. Sometimes in healing, if something is stubborn, a little bit of cayenne can be a little flip to the blood system. But ultimately, these are medicines, or herbs aren't things you live on forever. The diet is doing the groundwork. It's like you can't be half-assing the diet and then taking a bunch of herbs and cayenne pepper and whatever medicinal thing you found and expect that to do wonders. That's the quick fix mentality.
100%. Like you've touched on this whole conversation, just symptomology versus actually dealing with the root cause of the problem. And like a lot of people see, they get a runny nose, they get acne, they get breakouts when they're eating clean because they're detoxifying, and they get scared, they stop, and then you've got all those toxins that haven't fully been eliminated, and they're just staying there. So I think that's super important. I'd love to dive into rapid fire questions in a moment, but just one final thing I'd love for you to just quickly touch on is the foods that, based on your experience, research, and what you've seen, actually the worst foods that maybe fuel cancer or are really detrimental just to the body. And like usually they're high protein foods, but maybe just if you could touch on just based on what you see, if there's any things people should at least eliminate, they would be like the first ones to tackle.
I think if people were to eliminate anything from their diet, there's two things I'd eliminate and never consume ever again. And I mean that. And that is dairy and refined grains. I would say close with legumes. Grains and legumes I'd almost put in the same category. And there's a few reasons why for the grains. That is that they're heavily modified, they're dense and complex carbohydrates that your body really struggles with. This is why I see clients with fungal issues, and they go, sugar feeds the fungus. And I'm just thinking, mate, I'm going to get you on a herb and fruit diet, and this will be gone in no time. And that's what happens. And it's purely because the simple sugar is what is required, not these complex cooked carbohydrates. And these are very stagnating, dense structured foods. You've got dairy. Again, are we cows? Are we sheep? No. We've got different lipid profiles, different protein ratios, and it's like we need to grow up from being toddlers, in my opinion. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Still being adults drinking this? And I know Dr. Morse has touched on this before. The scene of tumors literally grow under the condition of dairy. I just see people that eat dairy and they're straight away stagnated, congested, and really those two off the bat. Any sort of refined food I would completely remove. And if you are concerned, I would like to swap out the word cancer for a stagnated lymphatic system. A lymphatic system where the waste cannot be removed well. So if you're going to look at foods that are not going to form more stagnation and cells to die, where really an atrophied or a dead cell is ultimately what they label as cancer. This is why over here we don't even really care about those words. And so if we can replace the word cancer with dead cells, with a stagnated lymph system, well, we need hydration. So really, is that dairy, is that cooked dairy, is that cheese, is that bread hydrating you? Does that have structured water, meaning it's raw? Do these foods contain electromagnetic chemistry that is exactly formed in nature? If that's a no, then that should tell you right away not to eat it. So I get to my clients to often ask themselves if they have been confused about what to eat, rather than looking at what is bad for them. Let's look at really what just the foundation of the food itself should have, because as soon as you have that understanding, then you can straight away just know, okay, is there structured water in that? No, maybe I shouldn't eat it. What's a legume? A dormant food that has anti-nutrients around it and things that block it from being digested, and then you need to sprout it, modify it, and do all these things in order for you to consume it. Maybe it's not meant for human consumption. That's why I love Socratic method. What's nature telling us? There's that ripe fruit on the tree. So I would reduce the stagnating dairies and grains and replace those with fruits. If you're eating candy, I'll ditch the candy and eat fruit. And that would be my main thing. If you can just ditch dairy and grains, this is why, in my opinion, I see often vegetarians are way more unhealthy than people that eat Paleolithic diets or carnivore and fruit diets, because the carnivore fruit diets contain fruit and meat, whereas the vegetarian diet contains refined grains, pastries, you name it, it's there.
Exactly. Like you say, like just because it's vegetarian or vegan, it doesn't mean it's healthy. It can be useful during the transition, but
Sure.
yeah, I remember like maybe just over 6 years ago when I was transitioning to vegan initially, I ate a lot more. When I went vegetarian first, I ate a lot more cheese, a lot more refined products, and like you say, it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. But
That was my result of the vegan diet, and like I still eat a vegan diet, but it's a raw diet. It's a fruit-based diet, because nature's already asking this of us. Like when we look at nature, is nature not telling us that these foods taste the nicest from nature without modification? I do lectures at the community I live at, and I'll just use Socratic method all day long with them. I won't make statements. I won't tout things as facts. I'll just say, is it not so that nature is doing this? Is it not so that these things naturally are appealing to us? And unless they're in serious denial, people go, yeah, it's true.
100%. And when you're asking questions, you're in power. You're not enforcing anything on anyone. You're not being dogmatic. You're just getting people to reconcile certain ideas and come draw their own conclusions, which, like you say,
Exactly.
is important. And just one final thing before the rapid fire questions, just fat, like fat as in the macronutrient. So obviously some people might eat only fruit, and they might eat like 8, 9, 10 avocados a day, which from my understanding is you're going to be super sluggish. But can you just maybe can you touch on maybe fat just real quickly, just for anyone who
Sure.
might be a bit confused?
Well, already try to picture yourself having a mono meal of avocados, meaning you're just sitting down and eating 4 or 5 avocados. That ain't gonna happen. I don't know really anyone that does that. I've known a few people. I'm not going to name someone, but there was someone in the fruitarian world who died recently. He was someone known to be eating 12, 15 avocados a day. He wouldn't drink water. It sounded like he had a lot of dense, non-hydrating foods. So again, we've got to be very careful with even the fruit world, because you can go into durian, avocados, excessive fasting unnecessarily, and as the confusion of the lipids and so on. And this is why I really am an admirer of Arnold Ehret and Dr. Morse, because when we look at the balance of chemistry, we just don't see the same level of hydration in fruits. You don't see more water and fat. They don't mix well. This is why if you have a sweet potato or a pumpkin or a really hydrating fruit and you pair that with avocado, it's not going to digest very well. You've got polarizing chemistries. Just get water and all olive oil and mix them. It ain't going to mix. You can just make it smaller particles, but they're not going to bind together. That is why the blood system is water-based and the lymphatic system is fat-based. So if you're someone with a lymphatic problem, which is the majority of the human race, in my opinion, when you look at the eyes through lymphatic iridology, you can see the lymphatic system in the eyes. If you have blue eyes, you may see yellow and white and even brown colors. That's the lymphatic system right there. And what we got to understand is if we add fat to a problem that already has an overproduction of lipids from the lymphatic system, being that lipid-based cholesterol system, we're not really helping the movement of lymph. We need astringents there. Astringents are the properties found in fruits, and these properties naturally move the lymphatic system. And it's in my opinion, I haven't heard anyone say this, and I'm surprised it hasn't been talked about more, but it looks like that in our species-specific diet, the final piece to the puzzle, the pump for the lymph, is in the food. We have the pump in the heart for the blood, and the fruit there is that missing key. This is why you can see people in a wheelchair drop weight like no tomorrow and regenerate themselves without moving a limb. And yet everyone's saying you should move your body, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. You absolutely should. If you can move your body, exercise. But be careful how you exercise, and of course not to overtrain and so forth. But it just shows that the astringent properties in fruits, meaning non-fatty dense fruits, mind you, not fat dense fruits, will initiate lymphatic movement far more quickly. This is why in a mucusless diet healing system, it's really not advised to go crazy on avocados. That being said, it can be a way to slow down detoxification, buffer acid response, use coconuts, things like this, even some seeds in some cases. We've got to understand the human body has strayed quite far off of its path. But in the ultimatum of it all, Arnold Ehret showed it. It's the high fruitarian, hydrating fruitarian diet. I believe he ate 5 oranges and went for a run for 50 odd hours. That speaks for itself to me.
Yeah, amazing. I appreciate all your insights there. I think you've given us a lot of value, and I think people should be well informed just from this hour alone. So yeah, I appreciate that. I think I'd love to do a whole nother episode on maybe iridology and looking into the eye, because that's a whole nother topic. It's hard to do here, but yeah, if you're ready, we'll go into some rapid fire questions. So the clue's in the name, just as quick as possible. I had one guest who took about 40 minutes, but I didn't mind because he had a lot of insights. But yeah, we'll keep it nice and concise. So
Cool.
All right, what's your favorite fruit?
Oh, seasonal, but if I had to choose, man, I would say grapes or oranges. Probably
Lovely.
grapes.
Powerful. Describe yourself in one word.
Passionate.
What is one book that everyone needs to read?
The Essene Gospel of Peace, Book 1.
Yeah, I need to read that actually. It got recommended by Luke Arona and it's a few others. So yeah,
it's on a PDF, a free PDF on Google. You type it in, you'll find it. But it is purchasable on Amazon as well.
Awesome. I'll check that out. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
There's one quote that comes to mind. It's not really a piece of advice, but I think it's good for religious folk, and that is that as you pray, move your feet. And what I mean by that is that you're responsible for your world. You're responsible for the life you live. And by just sitting around praying, contemplating the power of Om is not going to get you anywhere. You can pray over your meal in front of you all you like, but you can't transmute physical reality in that way. If that were the case, you could get diesel, chuck it in an unleaded petrol car, and it would fly out of the garage. It doesn't happen that way. And that really will bring me to, I think, a Dr. Morse line, and that is that like you are the creator of your reality. I think that alone is just a powerful thing to wear and to bear. It can be overwhelming. Truth can be really painful, but it ultimately will set you free. I have so many, I can't think of them, but Dr. Morse, that would be probably the main one there in the connection with you are responsible, you are the creator of the world that you're gonna live, and how that is up to you.
100%. I like what you said there. Almost that blend of intention and action. It's not enough just to sit
Yes.
there with the intention. It's like the
Well,
parable of the man. Yeah, go ahead.
exactly right. I'll have to say, actually, it just came to mind a quote, which again is not advice, but intention without action is meaningless.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the man who's drowning in the water and he's like, God, oh, it's okay, God will save me. Then a raft comes along and he's like, no, no, it's all right, God will save me. Then a boat comes along, no, God will save me. Then a
Yeah.
helicopter with like, rescue helicopter comes along, no, God will save me. And then he drowns. So, like you say, it's that blend of action,
Yeah.
action mixed with intention.
Yeah.
Awesome. What are three things that you can't live without?
Fruit, my guitar, and sunlight.
Nice. You have to play as a song next time.
I'm recording an album at the moment, so I'll publish that on a separate page, but I'll make sure people find out about it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'll link it. Maybe when that comes out. What's your
Yeah.
greatest strength and what's your biggest weakness?
Biggest weakness would be consistency. That's why I'm preparing myself for I'm not really going to be sharing about it, but really delving into the most pure fruit diet I've ever done, and I want to let myself embrace that really for life. Hence the Essene Gospel of Peace being a motivator for that. The biggest strength, I think, is my willingness to help others. As a kid, I always saw people struggling and suffering. I never liked that, and yeah, I'll do anything to help anyone. And I think that an unwavering. My mum calls it a universal love, so I'll use her words for that, not mine. Yeah, universal love for humanity and for what's right is what I'd call it.
Awesome. Do you believe in having a purpose? If so, what is your purpose in life?
Yeah, I think everyone has a purpose already there. A lot of fear can block what that purpose is. For me, that was definitely the case. Just the hesitancy of doing Dr. Morse's coursework got me really anxious. Oh, should I spend this money? All the fear and doubt you can't do that will come in. And I think the purpose you have is where your passion and love really shines. So if you find something that you naturally gravitate towards, maybe you gravitated towards it when you were a child. I think what you naturally gravitated towards when you were younger is a key, a hint to where you need to go, and to which industry that may be. And mine for helping people was always there. Playing music and doing that was always there too. But the helping of others is profound, and I think everyone has that. And I'd say the most honorable things that humans can do is to help others, be of service in some way. And if you're someone that doesn't feel like you have a purpose, I would suggest finding a community, finding a place where you can do something for someone else where there's nothing in return, because that will feed back in and of itself and you'll straight away be rewarded.
Great message. Finally, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for being in that dentist chair and having the reality slapped in my face. But in all seriousness, my mum, she fought the medical system. She stood up. She pushed against so much hardship and things they wanted to do to me as a child. And I likely wouldn't be here if that weren't the case. I believe I was a young 3-year-old where my mum said I was on the trampoline and I said, I'm really happy to be here. And she said, that's great. Yeah, it's a lovely day. And my response was, no, happy to be alive on this planet. So for whatever reason, mum was put there as my mum to help me. And she's a teacher as well, a school teacher. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. Your mum, whether or not they did wrongs, did rights, they did what they knew was right in that time. And my mum, for whatever reason, she's a warrior woman, as Dr. Morse would say. Even Dr. Morse picked up on that on my case. He's like, wow, sounds like you got a cool mum. And yeah, my mum's cool. She's awesome.
Amazing. Shout out to all the mums.
Yeah.
And yeah, where can people find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
People can find me at rawgenerate.com. They can find me at my Instagram handle, Rawgenerate, on YouTube at Rawgenerate Your Health, I believe, on Spotify at Rawgenerate Your Health with Jake Gallen, and on Apple Podcasts, my podcast, my YouTube. That's the platform now, including my Instagram, where testimonials are just going to be there. I've shared a few things personally with like personal growth with like my physique and things. I only did that recently as a way just to prove a point, but I'll let people know that's not going to be the basis for my channel by any means. It's a channel to share client testimonials, health stories, little tips and whatnot. I have a free ebook people can get on my website. A bit about me, the basics of vitality, basic herbs they can take, understanding grapes, understanding the lymphatic system. It may even soon be on one of Dr. Morse's shops as well. It's currently free unless we change a version for it. It's a little paid one that it's potential in the future, but that's really where you're going to find me at rawgenerate.com. I'm trying to help people in as much ways as possible, working on group coaching at the moment to reach more people. Yeah, people can come say hi, book a free call, get on a call, chat with me. Nothing's unfixable from what I've seen.
Amazing. Great. I'm sure a lot of people will reach out. I'm sure if they've got any value from this, then they can see the value of maybe working with you one-to-one if they do need that more accountability side of things. Because sometimes we can know what to do, but actually having just someone objective to guide us along can be a great help. But yeah, thanks for your time, mate. Thanks for everyone if you've listened this far. And yeah, wishing everyone a wonderful rest of your day. Peace and love.
Thanks, Dylan.